the title match at the Royal Rumble a fatal four-way.
Backlash 2025 was never supposed to be ordinary. It was advertised as a turning point, the start of a new season in WWE's global juggernaut, a night of high stakes and even higher drama. The card was stacked, the crowd in Lyon, France, electric, and the implications monumental. Fans anticipated championship bouts, dramatic rivalries coming to a head, and the emergence of new superstars into the limelight. But what actually unfolded that night wasn't just the start of a new season. It wasn't just another dramatic pay-per-view. It was a complete rewriting of the narrative, a seismic shock that would ripple through WWE for years to come. At the heart of this chaos, this controlled demolition of everything fans thought they understood, was a man many believed would never return. Dean Ambrose, or rather the more dangerous, raw version of him now known across the wrestling world as Jon Moxley. And he didn't return alone. Cheer the rise of Seth Rollins and the fall of Familiar Order. In the months leading up to Backlash, WWE seemed to finally find its balance. Roman Reigns, the dominant tribal chief, had stepped away following his grueling loss at WrestleMania 41. His absence created a power vacuum, and into that void stepped Seth Rollins, one of WWE's most charismatic and cerebral performers. Rollins wasn't just a champion, he was the champion. Holding tightly to the World Heavyweight Championship, he maneuvered through rivalries and challengers with strategic brilliance and an almost Machiavellian flair. His alliance with Paul Heyman, once Roman's most trusted confidant, was the final piece in his ascension to the throne. Heyman, ever the opportunist, shifted loyalties, trading Reigns' dynasty for the sharp wit and momentum of Seth Rollins. Together, Rollins and Heyman presented an unshakable image of control. The message was clear. This is the era of Seth freakin' Rollins. But as always in WWE, power is fragile, and even kings can be overthrown, especially when they forget who helped build their empire. Backlash begins. Action, anticipation, and uneasy silence. The show opened with a roar. The French crowd was loud, passionate, and on edge. Every match felt electric. Titles changed hands, feuds reached boiling points, and future stars made their presence felt. But even amid the non-stop action, something lingered in the air. An uneasiness, a hum of something coming. It wasn't just the typical big match buzz. It was something darker, more unpredictable. Fans whispered theories. Could Roman Reigns return? Was there more to Heyman's silence in recent weeks? The internet was alive with speculation. Then came the main event, Seth Rollins vs. Drew McIntyre, a titanic clash that lived up to its billing. The two warriors delivered a brutal, emotionally charged contest. McIntyre brought his usual grit and aggression, while Rollins countered with ring IQ and unshakable confidence. It was a match worthy of the spotlight. Rollins eventually claimed the victory, barely standing as the referee raised his hand. The arena erupted in cheers. Confetti fell from the rafters. Rollins climbed the turnbuckle, raising the World Heavyweight title high above his head. That was when it happened. The lights go out. Static, silence, and shock without warning. The celebration turned into confusion. The lights flickered once, then twice, then total blackness. A cold electronic static buzzed through the speakers. The confetti still floated to the floor, now illuminated only by the dim glow of phones throughout the arena. Then the Titantron flickered to life, not with a flashy entrance video, but with a grainy, black-and-white hallway feed. A lone figure appeared, dragging a steel chair behind him. The sound echoed eerily across the silent crowd. No theme music, no pyro, no fanfare, just tension. The camera zoomed in. Jon Moxley. The return of a ghost. Jon Moxley walks through the crowd. The eruption was instant. Gasps, cheers, shouts. Fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. For years, Jon Moxley had carved a new identity for himself in AEW. A violent, unhinged brawler who held nothing back. He wasn't just a wrestler. He was a force of nature. He had burned the bridge with WWE when he left as Dean Ambrose, frustrated by creative limits and burned out by the system. No one expected to ever see him back in a WWE ring. And yet, here he was. Just like in his Shield days, Moxley entered through the crowd, storming toward the ring with the same unpredictable energy that made him a legend. His eyes, however, were colder, focused, filled with intent. He slid into the ring. Rollins hadn't moved. The champ, still clutching his title, stood frozen in disbelief. History repeats itself. Chair shot heard. Round the world, for a moment, the two men just stared at each other. There were no words, no taunts, only silence and shared history. Years of battles fought as allies, betrayals delivered like poison, and scars still unhealed. Then Moxley acted. He raised the chair and swung it hard across Seth's back, a resounding crack that echoed through the stunned arena. Rollins crumpled to the mat, pain etched across his face. But it wasn't over. Moxley lifted him again, paradigm shift onto the steel chair. Rollins lay motionless. Heyman, at ringside, screamed for security. But no one came. The moment was paralyzing. This wasn't just a beatdown. It was a reckoning. The return of the tribal warrior. Roman Reigns steps out. As Moxley stood over Rollins's broken body, the camera shifted to the ramp. Another figure emerged from the shadows. Roman Reigns. But this wasn't the suit-wearing, smug tribal chief. This Roman was different. No grand entrance, no music, just raw presence. Dressed in black, fists clenched, he walked with a deadly calm. Heyman's face twisted in horror. Everything he had built with Roman, every scheme, every title defense, every manipulation, meant nothing now. Reigns reached ringside and stared down Heyman. There was no emotion, only judgment. In one swift motion, he grabbed Heyman by the collar and delivered a Superman punch that knocked him flat. The betrayal was total. A new alliance is born, ruthless, unforgiving, unstoppable. Roman climbed into the ring. He and Moxley stood together, side by side. It wasn't a Shield reunion. There were no vests, no fist bumps, no nostalgia. This was not about the past. This was about vengeance, power, control. Moxley handed Roman the microphone. The arena fell dead silent. You thought the past was over. You thought we were done, but we never forgot. We never forgave. And now, we take everything. He dropped the mic. The crowd was in chaos. Some fans cheered wildly for Moxley's shocking return. Others were stunned into silence at Roman's betrayal. Some cried for Rollins. Others stared in awe at what they had just witnessed. End of the night. A new WWE era dawns. As Moxley and Reigns walked back up the ramp, stepping over the fallen Heyman and the broken Rollins, the broadcast slowly faded to black. But the message couldn't have been clearer. The rules had changed. No longer tethered by alliances, no longer playing political games, Moxley and Reigns represented a new, primal force. Not anarchists, not rebels, but calculated predators, here to reclaim what they believed was always theirs. The fans in Lyon, France, had witnessed more than a twist in a storyline. They had witnessed the collapse of an era and the birth of something darker, more personal, and far more dangerous. Aftermath and speculation. What comes next? Social media exploded. WWE's official site was silent for hours after the show. No post-show interviews, no backstage footage, no statements from Rollins or Heyman. Wrestling insiders, fans, and analysts were left asking the same questions. Is this the beginning of a hostile takeover? Will Seth Rollins recover, not just physically, but mentally, from this betrayal? What role does Paul Heyman play now that both his greatest creations have turned on him? And perhaps, most terrifying of all, if Moxley and Reigns are together, who can stop them? Chart conclusion. A declaration of war, Backlash 2025, was supposed to elevate champions and close feuds. Instead, it opened a war. The return of Jon Moxley, the calculated betrayal by Roman Reigns, and the annihilation of Seth Rollins shattered the illusion of control within WWE. What began as a celebration became an invasion. A new era has begun, one not bound by loyalty or legacy, but by vengeance and violent purpose.